and I believe that's got into depression, severe depression after divorce, and after divorce, I found myself severely depressed, and I attempted suicide twice during that time. This is around 2011. And I believe that is the first time that the reality of ill mental health hit me. That's the first time that I started paying attention to what was going on in my mind. The reality of mental health, I became a victim of ill mental health. And for the first time in my life, I faced death because I attempted suicide twice. And
All right, fam. Well, it's time to engage. Moods are front and center. Enter the stage. Mind, body, and spirit to try synergy. Ask, not like Kennedy. Feel the energy. Jump as you live. Try to give all positive vibes. Ignite your cognitive senses. The consensus. Moods are stupendous, tremendous, and kicks like Juventus. Always on point, sharp like a knife, cutting through the bull, tame the strife of life. With no type of hype, don't like take a hike or roll the dice, grab the mic, connect like Skype. No need to save face, it's a safe space conducive to mental fitness, wellness inclusive. Chasing nirvana, elusive. Instead, shed the abusive pattern, real like the rings of Saturn. Full circle, Mutsa's in purple, royalty regal. She's killing you with kindness, it's almost illegal. So my people, life is up and down like a seesaw. Calito, fly away high like an eagle. Watch the leaves grow. Once my flow is flawless, then it's finito.
Oh,
hey, Mutsa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am awesome. It's a wonderful day out here in Joburg. It's beautiful and sunny. Yeah, yesterday it was raining the whole flipping day, and today we just woke up to some beautiful sunny weather. So yeah, we are grateful. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. It's always weather always has an impact on our mood, right? We always
Oh
put
yeah, it does.
yeah, yeah, we
Definitely.
underestimate, but the sunshine can do a whole lot of different things. So
Yeah.
welcome to shifting your mindset with Mutsa. Finally, we're here.
Thank
I've
you. Thank you.
I've
Thank you.
been I've been dying to get to know you. So because you're now part of the shift family, because you've been on the shift, I want to get to know you, or the guests of the audience want to get to know. So I always say to everybody that comes here, in order for us to know where we're going, we need to know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
So who are you? What is your name? Who are you? Where were you born? And then we'll move on from there.
But the name is Tony, real name Tony Makoni. But the name that has stuck with me over the years is Tony Friday. That's my radio name. I'm a broadcaster. I've been at it for 20 years now, and I became a mental health advocate, a mental health ambassador, a happiness coach some 5 years ago. And I've been, just spreading the message of love, a message of healing, a message of, restoration in the arena of the mind and emotions. I grew up in Highfields. That's where I come from. Grew up in a very poor family. Um, and I'm thankful for the background that I've had, because a lot of it is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today. And a lot of it is the reason why I find myself dedicating so much time to just talking about mental health and emotional health, because I really believe that we enjoy life through our emotions, and if your mind and your emotions are not well, it's impossible to enjoy life. If you are wounded in the mind, it's difficult to see anything good in anything. So I believe that when you heal the mind, you literally open the door to the enjoyment of life as a human being, because we are here for a short while, and it's only right that for the half a second that we are in existence, we enjoy it and use it to the fullest. So yeah, this is like a very summarized version of where I've been. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you've summarized it very well, but I would drill it down because there's so much you've just said there that I want to understand. So you grew up in Highfields in
Mhm.
Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
and you said quite a lot of your background has influenced you to be who you are. So what was it like growing up in Highfields? Describe Highfields for us. There's some people that are not from Zimbabwe that are listening in, and
Highfields is one of Zimbabwe's biggest ghettos. A lot of our leaders were born in Highfields neighborhood. I grew up in a poor family. There were six of us. Life was really, really hard
mm,
growing up. We didn't have much, but I guess that has also, helped me in appreciating even the littlest of, blessings. Because when you grow up without much, you tend to have a different perspective on, on blessings in general. It was survival of the fittest.
really,
I suffered bullying when I was growing up because I was always, I've always been slim, and primary school was horrible. I was bullied for my size, um, you know, called all kinds of names. This, got into high school as well. So it shaped who I became in my early 20s, and I believe that's when I really started to wake up to the realities of how my mind was affecting the way I was doing life, because I started dating very late because I had a very low self-esteem. And because I started dating late, I was always conscious of, things like rejection, and rejection, became a part of my adult life, to a point where I even got married and ended up getting divorced, got into depression, severe depression after divorce. And after divorce, I found myself severely depressed, and I attempted suicide twice during that time. This is around 2011. And I believe that is the first time that the reality of ill mental health hit me. That's the first time that I started paying attention to what was going on in my mind. The reality of mental health, I became a victim of ill mental health. And for the first time in my life, I faced death because I attempted suicide twice. And uh, I started to realize that, what, there's actually not a single area of my life that is not affected by my mind. Because at the time when I was severely depressed, I couldn't work, I couldn't relate to people in a proper sense. I couldn't eat properly. I struggled to sleep. I struggled to wake up. I struggled to take a bath because of this one thing. Just the pain that you're going through emotionally makes it hard for you to enjoy the experience of life. And that's when I started learning about mental health and how it really affects everything about us. Your spiritual life is not spared, your physical health is not spared, your relationships are not spared, even the way you see yourself is not spared because of of how mentally and emotionally well you are. So that's when I really started my journey as a mental health ambassador and mental health advocate, because I then started to find healing, and the healing that I found inspired me to set up something that would help other people also deal with their issues. So hence the Global Institute of Emotional Health and Wellness was born in 2015. At least at conceptual level. It came to life in 2017, and ever since then, I've just been, using the power and the influence that I have as a broadcaster to, tell people that, what, you need to pay attention to the one thing that is affecting everything about your life. There's no running away from mental health. It's not an option. Uh, you have the same way that you look after yourself physically is the same way that you have to look after yourself mentally. You cannot ignore it. In fact, that is the beginning of wellness. You can be healthy, as healthy as you would want to be physically, but if you're not mentally healthy, then you're in serious trouble. So
right.
that's how everything was born to where I am today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got to take a deep breath because, all along I knew there was something about you, but I couldn't. I was like, what is it? What is it? I can't wait to get to know. I want to say, first of all, I just want to say thank you so, so much for sharing your
Mm.
story.
Thank
Because
you.
for a man to come out and admit that they are depressed or they are weak, or, you know, they wanted to commit suicide, there's a lot of stigma around men embracing their emotions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you, as a man, you actually coming up and talking about how much you are, how much
Yeah.
you went through a whole lot of depression, how much you tried to commit suicide. And
Yeah.
whilst we, and the other thing, just to go back, you know, this is why I always say, in order for us to know where we're going, we need to know where we're coming from. The fact that you had this trauma, you know, when you were growing up, the trauma you had carried forward in life, and a lot of us underestimate how
Yeah.
things that have happened in our childhood, you know, influence who we become, or,
Yep.
you know what I mean, or what happens. And it's so funny that you've actually described that, and that's where sometimes when we're unwell, or sometimes we're a certain type of way, it's always good to revisit your childhood or revisit things in the past and confront those demons. Now,
Yep.
depression, let's talk about the first stage, depression. How do you identify that you're depressed? How do you know you're depressed?
I remember locking myself up in the room and closing the curtains and not wanting to wake up and not wanting to be bothered by anything or anyone. You know, I didn't want. Um, there were a lot of nights that I went to bed and hoped that I wouldn't wake up the next morning, because the pain was just so much emotional pain that I couldn't explain, that I didn't have a name for. I started. I started removing myself from people. And for some people, they even take it as far as using drugs and alcohol and substances and all of that in an attempt. I mean, it's easy to judge. I mean, it's easy to
Yeah,
say, "Oh, they're taking cocaine or alcohol, whatever." But what you don't see is the struggle to kill the pain, at least even for just one moment. If you can just be feel just a sense of peace, even if it's artificial, and that's what drugs do, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
even if it's for just one moment, I can just escape this pain and just be normal again. And they would give anything for that, because what we see on the outside is somebody who is, getting into drug addiction, and we have all kinds of judgments concerning people like that. But what you don't see is the pain that they even struggle to articulate. Now, imagine if I struggle to articulate it, how do I even make the next person understand that, you know what, I'm actually going through a pain that you can't see? Some people will go as far as, taking, unnecessary risks that they didn't take before. I've had situations where people start giving away stuff all of a sudden because there's no value in anything. Like, relationships become meaningless, and you just want to be alone, and you don't want to be bothered. But the extreme for me was getting to a point where this was severe depression. Now, when you get to a point where you start contemplating suicide, because suicide is a way out. Remember, everything is about wanting to escape the pain,
pain.
wanting to run away from this thing that you can't explain. You can't even explain it to anyone, and you just want to be free from all of that. So death becomes the next option, and you start fantasizing about it. I started fantasizing about it. I started fantasizing about how I would die. What would my funeral look like? Would people cry? Would people miss me? But all I knew is that if I was on the other side, then there was peace, because I wouldn't have to face this fire of this emotional pain that I was going through. So in general, these are some of the most common signs of depression. But depression is also progressive. For the most part, depression is triggered by life situations. I do understand that, there's certain depressions that are inherited, through genetics and all of that. But for the most part, depression is, most people are triggered into depression by life situations, whether it's, terminal illness, heartbreaks, grief, loss of property, loss of debt, financial situations, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It starts with one day, and a day becomes two, and 2 days become a week. And before you know it, it's been a month, and you are in this state of deep sadness that you cannot explain to anybody.
Right.
And so it's a progression, and then you move from minor depression to severe depression, and some people end up suicidal. But in general, that's what depression would look like. A lot of people still struggle to articulate what they
Mm-hmm.
feel when they're depressed. So it's something that I know affects a lot of people, and in the psychology world, it's actually referred to as the common cold of mental illnesses, because it's that common. It's one of the most common mental illnesses, and unfortunately, because we are not aware as a people, especially in Africa and in the Black communities, we are not as educated as we should be about the realities of depression. I mean, a lot of people just think that they are perpetually sad when they're actually depressed.
Right. Right. Because because I think, so there are times when you wake up and you think, I'm just having a bad day,
Yeah,
or I can't be asked, or I can't be bothered, or I just don't
yeah.
want to talk to anybody. Is that depression as well?
It could be. It could be. It could be if it goes on for because they say it takes anything between 3 to 6 months for somebody to be clinically depressed. But it varies with people. There's no set amount of time that you can put to it. But if you find yourself in a situation where you are perpetually sad and you feel this sense of hopelessness, and you start playing around with ideas that you were not playing around before, then it's time for you. It should be a wake up call for you to seek support. If it's somebody that you may need to reach out and say, hey, listen, I'm here. If you want to talk about this, I'm here to support you, and I'm here to make it all better.
Right. Wow. Okay, because I just want to clarify that, because I think we all have sometimes when we have bad days when we can't be asked. And I want to know whether is that a sign of some sort of underlying depression, or it's normal since you deal with emotions as well. Is it normal for you sometimes to just say, I don't know what it is, but I'm just feeling down?
Yeah, really sad. People say, oh my gosh, it's depressing, but that may not be the proper definition of what depression is, because depression is for the most part is identified by the longevity of this period of sadness. But if it's just
Right.
something that happens in a day or a couple of days, yeah, sure, you can say, oh, I've really been sad lately. Yes, it has the potential to turn into depression if it goes on for months on end. But a lot of people will use the term loosely, because I have a lot of people that reach out to us and then they say, oh, I've been depressed since last week. That may not be depression. It could be the beginning of it, because it's progressive, but it may not be clinical depression. And a lot of people also make the mistake of diagnosing themselves. And because they diagnose themselves, and because of how serious it is, your mind starts responding to the things that you say. And you actually start to display symptoms of depression. So the education and the information is really key, because it helps us understand. And also, because I mentioned the different potential symptoms of depression,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that when you have one, then you are depressed. It could be, there's times when I want to be alone. Like, I really just want to be alone. When I'm facing something, I just want to deal with it by myself. And there's times when I do not want to touch my phone. I don't want to talk to people. It doesn't mean that I'm depressed. Although, if you take that particular symptom or sign and you prolong it for a certain period of time, it could mean that I am heading to depression.
Right. And then another question that I also want to understand on that one as well is there something, as in some people that are depressed but they still function, they still
Yeah,
carry on. Now,
absolutely.
how do you define that? How does that person seek help?
So there's minor and severe depression, right? Minor depression, it doesn't require the services of. It may or may not require the services of a professional. It could
Mm,
just mean that I've had situations where, I'll give you an example. In 2019, October the 9th, I lost my young brother, the last born in our family.
yeah.
Sudden death. And the month after, I could see myself getting into, and I actually got into depression. But I didn't go see a professional because I knew enough to know that in this state that I'm in, I need to talk to someone about this. So this was
Yeah.
not necessarily, this was not somebody who is necessarily like a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever. I just reached out to someone who I know understands these things, and they gave me the grace, to cry about it, because for quite some months I suppressed it, which is what a lot of us would do, because when the pain is too much, we kind of tend to suppress the emotion. But emotions are living things; they cannot be
Right.
suppressed alive, because you can't bury something that is living, because it will come back to bite you in ways you can't even imagine. So because I didn't deal with it, I could see how it was starting to alter my behavior, and even just the way that I was doing life. I became a little angry,
Mm-hmm.
and I also became a little, I don't know. I struggled to sleep for the longest time. So that for me, because I'm very much aware of these issues, it was easy for me to stop myself and say, Tony, you need to do something about this. So I started talking to someone about it, and people underestimate the power of talking about issues, because talking about issues is amazing for the healing of the mind. Because when you talk about issues, you are literally throwing up. Yes,
Yeah.
when you're throwing up, you feel better, so maybe throwing up means you speaking to someone. Throwing up in this moment means you speaking to your best friend, who
Yeah.
is not even a trained psychologist, by the way, but the fact that they are a great listener, and they allow you to express yourself without even judging you, and they validate your experience, and they don't minimize your experience, it goes such a long way in just making you feel better. I mean, you will know that after a
Yeah.
good cry, you feel kind of better.
Much better.
You know,
Yeah.
for
Definitely.
that moment, it's but because we have so many opinions about men crying in
Yes.
general, even
The
for women
stigma.
cry, we have so many opinions about it. This is why when you go to any black funeral, especially a funeral in Zimbabwe, you'll find men sitting in some corner around a fire talking about Manchester United, as if they're not even part of the funeral, because they are not given the permission to express themselves, and they're hurting inside. But the thing
Mm.
is, we have been domesticated so much to not expressing our emotions, to not talking about how we feel, because talking about how you feel as a man is considered, a CC thing. People will even use the P word, like, why are you being such a P?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
to equate you expressing your emotions, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy, because when you really, really think about this, Muta,
Mm-hmm.
we equate emotional things to femininity, right? And we say
Yeah.
women are weak, right? Can you think of anything more powerful than the P, a life creating organ, and you equate it to weakness? How crazy is that, right? So I'm sorry to use that example, but
Okay.
there's a
It's
lot of
fine.
strength. People will say you're weak, or you're being stop being such a woman, stop being such a
Mm-hmm.
wimp, just get on with it. The closest that guys will come to talking about an issue is guys sitting in some bar, and then one guy says, oh guys, yesterday I caught my wife cheating. I caught her with another man. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, we'll raise a glass to that or whatever, make some joke about it. But here's someone who is expressing something that they are
Yeah.
going through, and they and sometimes even the women do not allow men to express themselves, because a lot of women have also been trained. In fact, most women have been trained to to have this picture of what a man is supposed to be. So if I'm married to you, and I come home after a long hard day at work, maybe I'm having issues with my boss, and then I say, baby, I really just want to have a good cry today. They'll look at you like, okay, like, who's the
So
man
most
in
of
this house?
them, yeah.
Who wears who wears the pants in this house? Who is the man? You know what I'm saying? So you guys sometimes even make it harder for us to throw up, because you've been trained that a real man is not supposed to cry. So you don't expect anything less from you, man. Very few women that I've met who will say, you know what, babe, it's okay. you had a bad day, you're having issues at work, or maybe you've been laid off or whatever. Here, come have a good cry. How many women do you know who would do that?
Me.
One. Out of how many? Out of how many?
I
So
don't
so
know,
so
but yeah.
yeah, so it becomes really hard for because crying is part of the processing of emotions. It's there for a reason. I mean, look at it. If women were really the emotional ones, why do men have tears as well? I mean, this is a biological. Why do men have to? They are there for a reason. They are there to help you process
Absolutely.
your emotions, and it's absolutely. I have cried like a little baby in the last 2 years than I've cried in my whole entire life, because I now understand that there is absolutely nothing wrong with me crying, and I've given myself permission to do that. I'm
Yeah.
raising a 15-year-old girl. I'm a single dad,
Mm.
and she's in her teens now, so her emotions are all over the place, so everything is a trigger.
I know.
And I have allowed her to express herself in whatever form, or as long as it's not obscene. You can come to me and tell me, I really feel like I want to cry, and I'll hold her, put her head on my chest, and she will cry it out, and then after that we're good.
Yeah.
And she knows it's okay for her to cry. And
Yes.
a lot of the times, as parents, we also teach our kids that, what, uh, back in the day when I was growing up, you would get beat up for
Yeah.
crying, and
Yes.
you'd also get beat up for not crying. And then you
Yes.
get confused. Like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Like, if you're beating me up and I don't cry, you beat me up some more. And if I
Mm.
cry, you also beat me up.
Where are we?
So
Yeah. Definitely.
exactly. So I'm coming from a generation of faulty parenting. I mean, my parents did their best.
Mm.
They could to raise me. I give them that, but they also taught us a lot of wrong things. A lot of the things I'm having to undo now, because now I'm a parent and now I know better. So I'm not going to perpetuate the same kind of patterns that destroyed me when I was younger. So when I was young, I was never told I love you. I was never validated, like, I'm proud of you, it's okay for you to cry or whatever.
Yeah, we were actually talking about it with my cousin sister yesterday, and we were saying,
Mhm.
the way we need to be, we need to articulate ourselves with our kids. We have to be very, very clear that we are different. You know what I mean? Their generation is completely different, and we have to be hands on. Because with of the dynamics or the generations, it's always like, you have to get on with things. About is the sensitive part of this. You've explained depression very well, explained how we're emotional beings, male and female. We're all born with tears, we're all born with emotions, and we need to embrace them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of suppressing them. Suicide. I know the reason why I want to focus on this, and this is so key, because obviously, with COVID, there is
Mhm.
a lot of things that have happened because people have been confined in the house.
Yeah.
Routines have changed. Some people have got redundant. Being a single parent at home with kids can drive you mad. You just I'm just at a point where I just feel like it's very key we address these things, because a lot of people are suffering. What's your take on that?
Whew. Yeah. We run a suicide hotline, and I can tell you that since COVID last year, the numbers have grown so much, with mostly men committing suicide more than women. It's no surprises there, because men just don't talk, because they, and not because they don't want to, but because they're not allowed to talk. Yeah, I always say this:
Mm.
suicide is not a reflection of the person that takes their life. It's a reflection of us as society, and society being you and me. So if somebody decides to commit suicide, it's literally a judgment on you and me that we didn't love this person to a point where they thought that death was the only way out. And if we fix one thing, and one thing only, as people, we will save so many lives. I mean, just 2 days ago, yesterday actually, we were me and the team were celebrating, this we saved a life. There was a young girl who was about to take her life. We didn't know what the deep issues were or whatever, but all I know is that she reached out to me via Facebook, and then one of our counselors in Belgium, spoke to her, and now she is safe. We can safely say she's safe. 2 weeks ago, the week before that, we saved 2 lives. People in similar situations where they feel like, you know what, it's this is the end of the road for me. And you must understand something about suicide. Suicide is a result of depression for the most part, right? With depression, which is caused by all kinds of fires like finances, ill health, relationship issues. Relationship issues actually rank way up there when it comes to driving people to depression and suicide. And
Wow.
the thing about it is, we judge a lot. Like, we have so many judgments and opinions about people who commit suicide, because if somebody posts on social media and they say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about suicide, statistics are telling us that most people who do that are actually serious about it. But we say things like, oh, she's just looking for attention,
Yeah, attention seeking.
blah blah blah. Yeah, because I mean, look at you, you're so pretty, or look at you, you're so rich. Like, how could you possibly want to take your own life, right? So that's a judgment, which is not based on fact, which is based on your own preconceived ideas of how people ought to be dealing with issues, right? And because we judge so much, people become scared to open up, right? So, and I know that people make attempts to because we are relational human beings. So if I'm going through something and I'm contemplating suicide, I usually say something about it. And they don't usually say something like, I'm thinking of killing myself. They will say it in subtle ways that if you don't know, you will not pick it up that this person is in trouble. You know what I mean? So because we judge so much, we drive people to this corner where they are so lonely. And loneliness, you and I know this, loneliness is by far kills more people than any disease known to mankind worldwide.
Definitely.
Loneliness. So loneliness is a big factor when it comes to suicide. So people are driven into this corner where they feel like, you know what, if I leave, no one will miss me. In fact, it's -1 problem if I go. And eventually some people actually go through with it. And it's a judgment on you and me, because the thing that stops suicide, as I have discovered, is not billions and billions of money into the mental health care. No, the thing that stops suicide for the most part is good old love and support. That's it. Love and support. Somebody intervening in the right moment and saying, listen, Mota, you haven't been taking my calls for the past 2 days. I'm worried about you. When you're ready to talk, I'm ready to listen. I'm here for you. These are powerful statements. Are you really okay? I am here for you. I love you. A hug will go a long, long, long way in stopping suicide. And remember, a person who is depressed is not looking at the world through a healthy lens. They are looking at the world in a and their perception of the world in this moment is very impaired.
Absolutely.
And then it's like expecting a person with a broken leg to walk properly. It does not happen. It just doesn't happen. So why do we expect people who are mentally unwell to do normal things? And doing normal things means taking your calls, right? Doing normal things means them responding to your actions in a normal way. They can't do that. They don't even know how to do that. Their perception of the world in this moment is severely impaired. And the reality for them is that this is the end of it. So it doesn't matter what you see. What matters is what they see. So the thing that I've discovered to work is, when you are dealing with someone who is in that situation, get into their shoes and validate how they're feeling, and tell them, you know what, I can't claim to know what you're feeling, but I do know that because I know you, and you wouldn't do anything crazy. So the fact that you're here right now means that you have a reason to be here, and it's up to you and me to find a solution out of this situation together. And I'm here. I may not have the answer now, but I'll hold your hand through all of this. I will hold your hand until your perception of the world is restored. Because the thing that is impaired when people are mentally and emotionally unwell is their perception. Mental health is a perception issue. It's the thing that suffers the most when somebody goes through a failure is their perception, because they start to see the rest of the world through the lens of that one failure. So when someone is depressed, their perception is impaired. When somebody is anxious, their perception. So don't come at them with your judgmental high horse kind of. I'm just like, look, because I can see the world clearly, so should you. It doesn't work like that. See it through their eyes, see it through their lens and say, oh, look, man, because I know that there was a point when you saw good in things, when you saw good in the world. And I want to help you go back to that place where you clean up those lenses and start seeing the world much more clearly. And support does that for people. When you support people, it literally helps them restore, that lens which may have been tainted by the experience that they've gone through.
Right. And that's a very good point. But what about if you want to try and support somebody and they don't want to accept the support? And you can see that clearly there's something wrong with this person. What do you do? What
You don't,
advice?
first of all, don't take it personally because it's not about you, right?
Right.
So if they're acting not nice, they can't act nice because they are wounded. Wounded people don't act nice.
Okay.
So persist in love and support. If somebody's not taking your call, take it upon yourself to drive to wherever they are and say, hey, look, I'm here. I'm not, even if it means you make coffee and just sit there and watch a movie, do that. But the thing that you cannot do is you cannot give up, because you giving up on this person could literally mean you are giving up on their life. Because if you give up, imagine what they will do.
So
So don't take it personally.
yeah.
Persist in support and love and be consistent until you know for sure that they are not in danger.
So that is a big call, because sometimes I feel like sometimes, when somebody is emotionally or mentally in an unstable place, sometimes in you trying to help them, you also become mentally unstable, or you get affected. Now the balance, how do we find the balance in that situation?
Um, it depends on how close you are with this person. If it's
Right.
your child, like how you can you ever imagine giving up on your own child? No,
No.
right? If it's you that if it's you that has to help this person, then by all means do it. But if
Right.
you can't directly help somebody, then get somebody else who will.
Okay.
And I like what you said about you will also need support as a person who's dealing with a person who is mentally unwell,
Yeah.
because when you feel yourself trying to because sometimes you can. I know people that have got into depression while they were trying to help somebody who was
Yeah.
depressed, and because they
Exactly.
loved them so much. And so you have to be careful and be conscious of yourself as you are doing all these things. When you start to feel like, I think I'm starting to, then by all means get somebody else to help
Right.
this person. Yeah,
Okay.
but the general principle, the rule of the thumb is this: you cannot give up on a person, but also sometimes there's a danger involved in dealing with maybe a violent person and whatever. So you have to use your wisdom and so and discretion to know when to stop. But generally, you cannot give up on someone. You
Right.
can't.
Oh, we've got a lot to learn, Tony. We've got a lot to learn.
Yep.
The other thing now I wanted to, because in the next, after this, I'm going to move, after we have this last question, I'm going to take a break, and then we come back. I want to move into the healing process. How are
Okay.
we going to the shift now? How are we going to help people that are in these dynamics? Right. So you've mentioned the fact that there's a high rate of depression coming from relationships.
Yeah,
What is going on there? What is happening? This, if the numbers don't lie, right?
true.
Mm,
It's because generally we don't take time to be well before we hook ourselves up with other people. We
right.
are, it's almost as if we are looking for healing by being with other people.
Mm,
Most people that I know, most people, 99% of the people that I've dated were broken people. They were looking for someone who's going to help them numb their pain. So they literally get into a relationship with all this expectation and pressure so they are looking to someone to say, heal me, heal me, heal me. So there's a lot of pressure there. They're not giving, they're taking. And that obviously put two people together who are like that. You can imagine the kind of disaster you create. Uh,
the blind
because
leading the blind.
exactly,
Mm,
I'm wounded. I'm trying to heal, but I don't know how. She's wounded. She's trying to heal, but she doesn't know how. And then you put all those two disasters together, and then you create one mega disaster
mm,
out of that relationship. And the thing is, when people get into relationships, they don't take responsibility for their wounds. In fact, they project. For the most part, people are always projecting themselves on the other people, and it's a lot of pressure because when you project something on the next person, they also become defensive and they either run or they will fight you back. You
mm,
understand? And this is where conflict comes from because I'm not taking responsibility for the fact that I have anger issues. I'm
right.
blaming it on you, right?
Mm,
I'm not saying to you, babe, I've been through the most and I need you to help me deal with this anger issue. That's a completely different approach to it because I become more willing to hold your hand because I understand that it's not about me. It's not personal to me, but I help you, deal with this thing because I'm not taking it personally. But if I don't own it up and I'm always blaming it on you, what do you think you're gonna do? You're either gonna run and leave or you're gonna fight me back. And it becomes a very
definitely.
toxic relationship in this case. But no one is responsible for your triggers. No one is responsible for your emotional reactions except for you. It's up to you to remove those wounds that are super sensitive, that even if anybody touches them, you are not that sensitive or touchy because they have healed. But the truth is, we walk around with all these mental wounds, mental and emotional wounds, and people are trying to relate to us in a normal way, and even when they do that, they trigger us into all
Yeah.
kinds of reactions. And when they trigger us, we say, it's your fault. You make me feel this way. You can finish the rest. You make me do this. You make me, but no one makes you do anything.
Yeah.
It's you who didn't heal, and you're walking around like a giant wound. And even if somebody just brushes you just a little bit like this, you have exaggerated responses because you are a wounded person. Now put
Right.
two people like that together. It's a disaster.
Absolutely. That you summed it up very, very well. I'll let you take the crucial hour now, the healing part,
Okay.
the shift we've been waiting for. Now, you've described depression, you've described emotions, you've described, all sorts of things. How do we now? Let's start with the individual. How do I conquer this? How do I conquer my day as a person?
Um, you can't solve something you're not aware of. You cannot deal with a problem that you don't even know you have. So the best place to start is to build a very strong awareness of your mind and your emotions. Be very aware of how these things are influencing the way you behave, the way you relate to people, the way you are chasing money, the way you are physically. Yes. So how do you develop uh, a, a great sense of awareness for your mind and your emotions? Your biggest clue, a very good place to start, is paying attention to your emotions. Now, for people who may not know what emotions are, I'm just going to take a moment and do a bit of science and
Yeah.
explain what emotions are. So, emotions are actually neurochemical, substances that are released in your body. We feel emotions in our bodies. Emotions are felt in our bodies. That's why we say, when you say I feel fear, you feel it in your body. You have that stomach feeling, or when you say I'm anxious, you're feeling it in your body. Emotions have physical manifestations in the body. But for the most part, they are primarily showing you what is going on upstairs in your brain. So you think a thought and it triggers an emotion, and that emotion, you feel it in your body, right? So emotions are amazing things because at any given point, emotions are telling you what's going on in your head.
Right.
And I would take it a step further and say that emotions are gifts to us. Emotions are gifts to us given by God to 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 tell us what we ought to pay attention to. I want you I want to use this analogy, and hopefully it drives the point home. Imagine driving a car and you've got your dashboard in front of you, and there's all kinds of lights there. There's the light for fuel, there's the light for water, there's the light for oil, and every time a warning light goes off, you don't fight with the light. Like, it's not, if the fuel light goes off and it goes ping, 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 you don't fight with the actual light. You know that I have run out of fuel and I need to refuel and keep going, or I won't be able to go anyway. So that's one way of explaining what emotions are. Emotions are gifts that are given to us at any given moment, because at any given moment, throughout every waking moment, we are feeling something. Right now, I feel excited. I feel, because I am here, I'm having this great conversation with you. So in this moment, my emotions are giving me feedback on something that I should do more of.
Right.
But emotions will also tell you things that you should do less of. So if I'm always feeling fearful, or if I'm around people that make me feel maybe they belittle me and they make me feel unworthy, and
Yeah.
it's your emotions in this moment are a gift to you, telling you maybe you should stop hanging around these people because they make you feel a certain way. So emotions are a feedback mechanism telling us what's going on in our minds, right? And the emotions also point to the traumas that we still hold in ourselves. I'll give you an example. I've had moments, because I come from, I've been cheated on so many times in the past, right? And I remember the first time that somebody cheated on me, I caught messages on a phone. And I went through them, and in this moment, I felt scared, like I had this emotion of intense fear. And in this moment, it was branded in my brain, because as information is stored in your brain, it's not just stored as facts. It's every piece of information in your brain is stored with an emotion attached to it. So a complete memory in your brain includes information, which are facts, and an emotion. And every time something triggers this emotion through any one of our five senses, so maybe you hear a song that reminds you of someone, and all of a sudden you remember that person, but it comes with an emotion, and all of a sudden you are lost in this sea of intense emotion over someone. So in this moment, that intense emotion of pain comes back to me, and I experience it today as if it's happening right now. But the point is, it's telling you that, Mutsa, here is a gift to you. I am showing you something you haven't dealt with that you need to deal with. So a lot of us, when we get into this intense, when we're triggered by something, what do? Because we don't like them, because they are unpleasant. But emotions are our friends. They are our best buddies, in truth, no matter how much you hate to hear it. So in this moment, you can either try and suppress the emotion, right? Or you can say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why does this person trigger me so much? Remember, it's not about them. It's about you.
Yeah.
why do you push my, why do you have the ability to push my buttons so much? And I don't fight you. I fight, the thing that I want to do is I want to get to the bottom of it and say, because at some point this person didn't trigger you so much, but why is it that now they do? Like, what is it that, so I keep asking questions. So one of the most important questions is to ask when an intense emotion comes up, and you say, why do I feel this way?
Right.
What is this emotion showing me about a trauma that I've been ignoring for years? So to bring it home, I told you about my experience being cheated on and whatever. So every time I saw someone who either, if I dated somebody who had who was very protective of their password over their phone, I would literally get that feeling of fear, like, oh my gosh, it's happening again, you know.
Right.
And meanwhile, it's not about this person. This person is just a trigger. And a lot of us are just triggers for the most part, you know. A lot of us are just triggers, and they are triggers that keep rubbing on that wound that has not been dealt with. So, to develop a sense of awareness for your mind and emotions means that you start paying attention.
Right.
You start paying attention to what these emotions are showing you. And as these emotions are showing you something, you've got to be willing to face the pain, because a lot of us do not like pain, but pain is a part of the human existence. Pain is a teacher.
Right.
Pain, I'm not suggesting that we be perpetually in pain, but even Jesus said it in the Bible, in this world, trouble will come.
Definitely.
Know what? There is, perpetual happiness is not practical. That expectation is not realistic. I know it's what the media is trying to tell us, but perpetual happiness is not practical.
Right. There's a balance in the world.
Exactly. So pain is a teacher. So you've got to be willing to face your demons in the face and say, listen, I have let you run my life for quite a chunk of my life. And I think that you and I have got to come to that point where I'm going to face you head on. Now, I'm going to stop here and say, when you decide to deal with your trauma, when you decide to deal with your traumas, it's exactly the same. It's almost similar to, let's say, Mutsa, last year when you were playing football or whatever, you broke your leg, right? And that leg got swollen, and that leg, accumulated all kinds of pus, and you refused to go to the doctor, even when you knew deep down that I should deal with this, but you didn't, right? And a year down the line, you then decide, you know what, I've gone through too much pain. I think it's now time for me to go and see a doctor and get this sorted out, right? So you go to the doctor and then you tell him what happened. This is what happened and blah, 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 right? And you know what doctors do? Like when they're trying to, ascertain the level of damage or whatever, they will touch on the swollen part as if it doesn't even exist, because they're trying to see how painful this is. So they will squeeze that little knee or whatever, and you will moan and groan because it's painful, right? But they're trying to see how deep the damage is. And then they eventually tell you, okay, cool, Musa, I've seen something is wrong here. We obviously need to do something about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to operate you, right? He lays you on the table, and then he's going to get his knife. And the process of cutting through the knife, cutting through the leg, to cut it open to let the pus out, is an excruciating one. I'm sure you can relate to the times when you were young, when you hurt yourself when you were playing, and then you go running back to mommy, and you say, "Mommy, I hurt my leg," or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she would sit you down. She would give you, a piece of her mind first, and then she would sit you down, and then she would get a needle if it was maybe it was a thorn that is stuck in your, toe, whatever. But it was a painful process, right? But you knew
Yeah,
that not going to money is also not wise, because as long as this stone is inside you, you're always going to be in pain. So in this
definitely.
moment, the doctor cuts your leg open and the pus comes out. And
Mm,
there's a certain kind of relief you start feeling. I mean, you're still in pain, but it's nothing compared to the pain of, keeping the wound as it was, right? So he lets the pus out, and then the pus comes out, and then the process of healing starts. So the
that's
pain graph starts going like this. From up here, the more you heal, the more you heal, the more you heal until there is no pain. So
right.
2 months down the line, somebody will still come and touch you the same way that they touched you, 3 months ago. But guess what? It's not painful anymore. Like, they
Right.
can try and squeeze and poke and do whatever, but it's not painful. The pain is gone. And it's this.
Oh,
I'm sure you can already see where I'm going with this. Like, a lot of
yeah.
us are walking around with we are walking around with wounds because we've been scared to face the pain, because subconsciously we know it's going to be painful to talk about the fact that you were sexually abused when you were young, and you had buried a living thing alive, which is the emotion, the pain, and all of that, right? I'm using an extreme example,
No, it's
but
fine.
you know that
Real life. Yeah.
facing it and talking about it is going to be painful, because it's going to bring back, guess what? That memory is not just fact, it's also emotion, and it's painful emotion. So you're going to have to face up to the fact that you're going to remember every single detail about what happened on that day. And guess what? It will be freaking painful, because you are reliving an experience that happened 15, 25 years ago. And that is not easy. And a lot of us are not comfortable with that pain. So we will drink it out, we will smoke it out, we will sex it out. Yes, people
Yeah.
use sex to try and numb emotional pain.
Yeah.
We will do whatever. We will shop it out. Just even if it means temporarily, I don't have to face it, then it's fine. And we shouldn't judge people who are scared to deal with their emotions. It's a choice that we're all going to have to make. I always say the pain of not dealing with an issue is far greater than the pain of facing it in the face and um, just dealing with it. Like, you are much better off going through the temporary pain of getting your healing started than just keeping, because the more you keep it, the more it gets swollen, the more the pus accumulates. You become a human being who is not pleasant. You become bitter. You become angry. You are not nice to be around if you haven't dealt with your issues. So back to building an awareness of be aware of what your wounds are, and start with what your emotions are telling you, because your emotions are telling you something. It's that dashboard sign on the car that's telling you, Muta, every time you talk about this particular issue, you get angry.
Mm.
And I keep telling you that there's an issue here.
Or every
There's an
time
issue
somebody
here.
tries to speak to you, you're just angry. And mm,
So, yeah. So I would say that's the beginning of our healing. Look, we don't have enough time here to get into how to deal with what. But what I've just given you right now is a very generic approach to starting your healing. I mean, there's different ways to deal with depression, there's different ways to deal with anxiety, there's different ways to deal with excessive fear, which cripples you to not doing anything.
can we
There's different ways to deal with anger, you know. There's
can
different
you
ways
give
to
us
deal with it. We don't have enough time to get into all of that. But
just fear?
what
Okay, just fear, Tony. Just give us something on fear, because I think fear is more common. Fear is a more common element that lingers around, which I think is a big driver to everything else
yeah,
that comes, with depression.
fear
Fear. How do we
fear
conquer
is
that?
a fear is learned. Fear is learned behavior, because I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Scientifically, the human brain is wired for love. They've they've proven this over and over and over. The human brain is wired for love. Even the Bible says, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So your default setting, the default setting for the human brain is love. You will never come across a person who is having a bad day because, oh my gosh, my husband is loving me too much. I can't take it anymore. No, because it's the default, and there is nothing like excessive love. Anyone
Wow.
can take love any day, but give somebody something toxic, even just for 1 minute or 5 minutes or 10, your whole system starts to go haywire because scientifically your brain is wired for love. It's wired for
Wow.
positive things. So when you so love is the default, but fear is learned. We learn fear. Fear is a hijack of the default. So now, fear gives birth to a lot of things. Did you know that anger issues are rooted in fear? Because anger, like the root cause of anger is fear. Who knew this? But fear, anger is a manifestation of fear. I'll give you an example. People adopt anger as a coping mechanism
Yeah.
to one, protect themselves from further pain. Like you go through so much pain that you get to a point where you'll be like, I've had it. I'm going to become the aggressor so that I don't experience the pain that I'm going through right now.
Right. Wow. Okay.
R. Kelly is an example. He was abused when he was younger, and he was sexually abused when he was young. And he made a decision at some point that I'm never ever going to be the victim. I'm going to be the perpetrator. In his head, he doesn't see it as that, but really, his behavior is an expression of a fear of not wanting to go through the same pain again. Kids who are bullied in school, for example,
Mm-hmm.
will grow up to be abusive partners. And there's a strong link between the two. That somebody who was at the receiving end when they were younger become very angry people, and they use that fear to one,
Right.
defend themselves. Because if I'm beating up my partner, who or my wife or girlfriend or whatever, for the silliest of things, it is a fear that she's going to disrespect me. It's a fear that she's not going to see me. It's a fear that she won't see the worth in me. So to stop all of that from happening, you become the aggressor. I mean, you can read up on it much more as you know after the show. But
So it's
people
wearing a
also
mask.
adopt exactly, and people also adopt fear as a way to get their way when they are younger. If you watch kids, if a baby wants something, what do they do when you keep saying no?
They cry.
They cry and they get angry, right?
Yeah.
Because they know that you are, I mean, this is a subconscious thing. They know that you are uncomfortable with the emotion of anger, right? So every time, even you as a mommy, you start shouting in the home, you know that everyone is gonna get in line because people are uncomfortable with fear because it's so foreign to our brains. Our brains are wired for love. Love is the default. So if I want my way, I'm going to give you something toxic that I know you can't stand. And then this is what we do when people get angry. Here, have it. Torah, it's yours,
Wow.
because we
Yeah.
don't like it's not
Making us
the default.
uncomfortable.
So people use it as a tool to get people in line. I mean, governments do this all the time. They instill fear when they want people to get in line, But there's also a different kind of fear, which is the fear of not being good enough, the fear of being unworthy, the fear of not being smart enough, the fear um, of not being pretty enough, the fear of not being good looking enough, the fear of not being of not being able to fit into situations, the fear of not achieving success, the fear of being a bad mom, there's all kinds of fears, man.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of fears.
True.
The thing that I
Absolutely.
will say, I do life. is that fear is an emotion, right? And
Mm.
emotions are not facts. You may need to write this on a fridge somewhere and remind yourself 1,000 times over. Emotions are not facts. Emotions just reveal what's happening in your brain. They are not facts. So just because you feel it doesn't make it true. But a lot of the times we treat emotions as though they were the Bible. But emotions are not facts.
Right.
Every time you feel fear and you're about to start a business, do it anyway. And the moment you take the first action and the next action, you will prove yourself right because you will realize that at the end of all of this, the fear that you saw was all in your head. A fear is a virtual reality, it's not a fact in reality. It's a virtual reality. It's something that your brain creates to stop you from doing something because fear goes through situations that do not even exist
Absolutely.
and you
Ab-
create it all in your head.
Absolutely. Mindset. The mindset.
Mindset,
You have to shift
mindset,
the mindset. Shifting the mindset.
mindset.
Wow. That is so powerful, you know. I love the fact of how you just described emotions. Never in my life had I ever realized that emotions actually, on reflection, they do tell you something. They are trying to give you a message, and you ignore this message, and instead you then feed into the pain instead of understanding the message that comes with the emotion. So that is powerful. That is powerful. It's something that I think that's a key tool we can all use, when we're feeling some sort of emotion, is what's the message? It's a gift we have, intuition we have. Absolutely. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I also love the fact that you keep talking about the trauma we carry around as individual people, you know, and then you have moments of flashbacks. It comes back to you, but you still think, oh, okay, it was a moment, but actually you're getting a message to say, deal with it. Wow. That is so powerful, Tony. This is so amazing. This is so amazing. What else can you tell us? Tell us more, please, because I always say, the reason why we have shifting your mindset, because I believe everything, there's so much power in the mind. What we are, who we are, how we think, how we're driven goes back to how your mind works.
Yeah,
Your mind drive or form or shape who you become. So it's quite, but we underestimate how much we program our minds, how much we push our minds,
yeah,
how much we prompt
yeah.
our mind. We underestimate it. So what you're saying is absolutely key, in all those things. Right. Give us some more, chef, please. Give us some more. The more
The
tips
last thing
is
that the last thing that I will say that has completely transformed the way I do life, the way I do anything, even setting goals for me now. I set goals with that understanding in mind, and it has completely transformed me, my life, the way I do every single little thing, man. Now, I realize that for most of us, we're coming from somewhere, and that somewhere is not a pleasant place. Where we've been told things, we've been, uh, we've been, we've believed a lot of lies, yeah, and we've never ever challenged any of these lies at
yeah,
all. Like we've never had a moment where we said, "Wait, but is this really true? Like, is this really true for me? Like, all these things that have been said, all these things that the media comes and says to you, oh, you need to look like this, you need to own this, you need to, be a certain size, you need to. It was such a joyous day for me when a voice told me that, Tony, Listen to me carefully. I am your father, and I made you, and I made you in my image, and I love you with everything I have.
Mm.
You don't need to be anyone else. You don't need to have anything else. You don't need to be anywhere else. You are perfect as you are right now, today, where you are.
Right.
I'll say it again. Tony is perfect today, where he is. He doesn't need to make any kind of money. He doesn't need any more money or to look a certain way or to be a certain way. He doesn't need to sound a certain way for him to be perfect. He is perfect today, right now, in this moment. Now, saying it is not hard, but believing it is something else.
Something else.
But I believe that beliefs, did you hear what I said? I
Mm.
believe that beliefs
Yeah.
are very changeable. Beliefs are not static, they are not stuck with us. You have believed and unbelieved things throughout your whole life.
Absolutely.
So beliefs are not set in stone. So today, make every effort to believe this. Muta, you are
Mm.
beautiful. You are wonderful. You don't need to look anything else. You don't need to have an extra $100 in the account for you to be perfect. You are perfect today where you are. Your voice is perfect. Your eyes are perfect. Your skin is perfect. Your size is perfect. Because you know what? You are just one of the 7 billion expressions of who God is. You
Right.
are one of the 7 billion expressions of who the divine is. And He is showing off when He looks at you because you are one unique expression of who He is, meaning your size is exactly the way that you're supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
So anything you do from this point, from this understanding, you're doing it, any kind of improvement, any kind of change, any kind of goal that you set for yourself, whether it's a goal to lose weight or a goal to make more money, you're doing it because you want to do it, not
Yeah.
because you have to do it to be perfect.
Right.
You're doing it because you want to do it. I want to
And
be fitter. Great. Go be
because you
fitter.
want,
I want to
yeah.
make more money. Go great. But you're not doing it. So even if you don't become, if you don't lose as many kilos as you thought you would, you're not going to judge yourself because you knew that you were perfect in the first place to begin with. And this was just an add on, this was just an improvement on who you are, you know? So your failure will not define you in this moment because you were perfect in the beginning anyway,
Right.
and you didn't need to go anyway, lose a certain number of kilos to be anything else.
I
So some people call it self-love, you know. I
yeah,
call it self-passion, to be passionate about who you are. Muta, listen
definitely.
to me. You are beautiful as you are. You don't
Thank
need to be anything else to be perfect. You are perfect today, right now. If you want your hair longer than it is today, you're doing it because you want to,
want
not
to.
because you
Yeah.
have to.
Definitely. And I guess that's where the problem is sometimes is what I want to do, society might not want that, but I want to do it. Do you know what I mean? And society gets a certain perception. Like if I decide that this is I want to enhance myself like this, I want long hair, I want blonde, I want black, because I want to do it. But society may come back and say, actually, no, that's not right. So how do you find that balance then?
Who who is society? Let's start with that. Society is someone out there who is just like you, who is also struggling with their self-esteem just like you. And
Right.
this is someone who is not comfortable in who they are and they are trying to project what they think you should be on you. And they are just your truth is your truth, and you don't owe anyone any explanation for anything, because the person that you're calling society is also just a bunch of people who are struggling with the same things that you're struggling with.
True.
And who amongst those people has authority over you? So it means if they have authority over you, you should also have authority over them, because we are all humans, aren't we? Yeah. So you should also be telling them, oh no, but you can't do this, you can't do that. Do you see how crazy it sounds? So
Absolutely.
live
Absolutely.
life on your terms and question every single lie that has ever been told to you. If you're
Right.
gonna, I don't care what it is, from tomorrow morning, if Colgate doesn't do it for you, you are under no obligation to use Colgate to brush your teeth in the morning. You could start using leaves for all you care, and no one should ever question you.
Mm.
If raising kids required some manual that somebody sat down and came up with, why don't you come up with yours? Because it is your truth.
Yeah.
It is how you, because the God of this universe is inside you.
Right.
He would hate it if you, after him going through all the trouble that he, let me just give you just the little bit of maths, right? This is not a sexual example, but it's a very biological one, right?
Yeah.
So in one ejaculate, like every time a man produces semen, right, there
Mm.
is 8 to 900 million sperm cells, right?
Mm. Mm.
Out of those 8 to 900 sperm cells, I hope I'm getting the figure right, but it's in the millions.
Mm.
One became you. Do you know what? Just look at the odds. Like, just the odds of you out of 800 million
Mm.
making it into your mother's womb. And you're sitting here with beautiful hair, with that nice blue top. And you want to waste that miracle by living by somebody else's rules. I would say that's sad, because mathematically you are a miracle, because your parents didn't do it once, they did it a number of times. So you can take that 8 to 900 million and multiply it by however number of times they did it. That's how much of a miracle you are.
Right.
And you want to sit there and have a miserable life because what?
True.
So the point that I was trying to make was, you are perfect as you are. You are meant to be sitting in that chair. Your fears, your insecurities, whatever limitations you see in your head are all virtual, and they
Right.
are created by no one else but you. You are the author of those things, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
You are not responsible for your traumas, like the things that happened to you, but you are responsible for undoing the lies and start making things right.
Absolutely. That's that is powerful, Tony. That is powerful. Just a quick one before I let you go. Drug addiction. We are, because we're doing the drug awareness campaign right now, and I know it's
Yeah.
all tallied to mental health and all of that. How do you support people that have addiction? How do you do that?
Well, the
Or,
first thing I'll
and
tell
it's
you,
not just even drug addiction. We talked about even alcohol. We talked about sex. There's so many addictions. How do you?
yeah,
How do you?
I'll tell you something that that doesn't work, and then I'll talk about what works.
Okay.
Judging people will never work.
Okay.
Judging people will never work. You will
Right.
never judge anyone who is walking with a limp or with a broken leg. Human beings are created as loving beings. You only get one of two responses from any human being that you come across. Only one of two responses. Response number one, they'll either give you a loving response. The other response is a cry for help. So it's
Right.
either a loving response or a cry for help.
Okay.
And drug and alcohol addiction is a cry for help.
Right.
If you see somebody who is stuck in that space, the best thing you can do is to support and be compassionate towards that person and do everything in your power to show them another way. Because for them, they do not see another way. Remember, I said it's a perception issue.
The
When
perception.
you are mentally unwell, your perception is impaired and you are not able to see things through the normal lens.
That's
So
true.
you can't judge someone who is addicted to anything because they are crying out for help. And if they are crying out for help, are you listening to that cry for help? Are we listening to that cry for help? So it's unfortunate that there's no solution in end, because I know for sure that for a lot of people who end up um, in these vices, it's not because they love drugs so much, but because they don't see any other way out, right?
Right.
So the economy needs to be fixed. People need to be given things to do, because you literally can't stop them from doing that and not give them something to work
Absolutely.
with. You understand? So it's got to be holistic. Our approach to this issue has got to be holistic. So, but the biggest thing is compassionate. When I was coming here, the day that I came to SA on the 12th of April, at the airport, I met a young man. He's 22, addicted to meth. Yeah. So we just struck a conversation. I do this everywhere I go, So I could see he was kind of high, and he was also feeling a bit uncomfortable because his eyes were looking funny, and people
Yeah.
could see that, this person is intoxicated. So I sat next to him while we were waiting for boarding time.
Yeah.
And then we had a conversation, and then he was telling me. So I was asking him, so how did you start? And then he was telling me how he got into drugs and all of that and blah blah blah. And then I said to him, if somebody was to come to you and said, um, I have a solution for you to, would you take it? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be easy, but I'm willing to take it. So a
Yeah.
lot of people are willing to accept help when
Right.
it comes. My vision, one of our visions as the Global Institute of Emotional Health and Wellness, is to build um, a rehab that is almost free of charge, because I
Yeah.
know that money is a factor
Yeah.
when it comes to how people get rehabilitated and whatever. Zimbabwe has just
Absolutely.
one. There's Annex, which is uh, it's not even capable
Yeah.
of taking care of all the people that are dealing with. So I work with AA Zimbabwe, so we refer some of these cases to them, but even they are limited in what they can do because of their numbers, because there's just isn't enough help.
What is the
The
data say?
professionals are not many and all of that. So I'm actually in the process of fundraising for a lot of these initiatives, and I'm hopeful that we'll have enough partners on board to come in and say, we'll support you while you support people, because we do need money to be able to
Yeah.
do these things. But
Of
yeah,
course.
love and compassion. If you have a family member who is struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, the first thing you should not do is to judge them, because judging them puts them deeper into the pit, and that's not what you are. And I know you're doing it with the hope that they will feel bad enough to come out, but it does the opposite of what you wanted to do. And the very same thing that you're scared to do will do the opposite of what you think it will do. Because when you love and support someone, love is powerful, guys. Read Romans 12:22. It says, if your enemy is hungry, give them food. If they're thirsty, give them water. By doing this, you are heaping burning coals on their heads. Why burning coals, and why the head? Because the head
Yeah.
is where the brain is. And why burning coals? Because heat melts. You melt negativity in anyone when you exercise love in a toxic situation. Further down that scripture, it says that do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Good and evil are not opposites. One is born of a creator, one is born of a creation. Exercise love in a toxic situation and see what happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that because I know sometimes when people say, who is Mutsa? I always say love because I get that. That's the most powerful thing. in anything, even interviews where people say, "So what's our first of all, love?" And people always ask me why, because I think that's the most powerful force we have as human beings. And whenever things are pear-shaped, if you go back to the basis of love, love will always brings light, and light will always drive out darkness. So
Absolutely.
absolutely amazing. So how can we get in touch with you, Tony? Because there are a lot of people that are, they, like you're saying, they're high numbers, people that need help, people that are depressed, people that have anxiety, people that need a boost, mentoring, to get their goals, fear, anxiety, all these things, people that have trauma from their childhood. How do we reach out? How can people get in touch with you?
So we have a 24-hour hotline in Zimbabwe. It's a calling and WhatsApp lifeline, and the number is +263 772 108108. That's +263 772 108108. Plus
Okay.
263 772 108108. So you can call, WhatsApp, or text that number, and someone will definitely talk to you. We are also on social media. We are on Instagram as GIEHW, at GIEHW. That's at GIEHW. That's on Instagram. And then on Facebook, we have a page called Global Institute of Emotional Health and Wellness.
Yeah,
Global Institute of Emotional Health and Wellness. And of course, you can connect with me personally, Tony Friday ZW, Tony Friday ZW on Instagram and Twitter. It doesn't really matter where you get a hold of me, but we can connect on those platforms and see what happens next.
absolutely amazing. You've been amazing, Tony. I don't know if you have any last words you want to share with people, or should we just reach out to you, and because you have quite a, I know we've summarized it. We didn't even touch half of the things that I know you're capable of doing, but it's so good because you've walked that mile. You're not just talking from going to school. You've experienced the depression. You've experienced attempted suicide twice, and you cry and you openly talk about these things. You've understood your emotions and you embrace them. So, um, I'm very humbled to be around you. You know what I mean? It's, you are
Thank
so,
you
so,
so
so
much.
amazing. I don't know if you have any
Thank
last
you.
words. You know,
I would say the last thing that I would say is love is the anchor for mental health. Good mental health begins with giving and receiving love. That's it. Love anchors mental health. That's it.
receiving and giving love. Amazing. Thank you so, 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 so much. So much, Tony. It's been amazing.
Thank you, Nita.
So I'll catch up with you after. So I'll round off and close off, and then,
No
I'll catch
problem.
up with you after the show. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Okay.
Thank you, Nita.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.